all goes well, your plants are healthy, you've been fertilizing properly, but it's a little rainy outside, you may not have had enough time to get out and plant your plants in the ground. If that's the case, you may need to thin out your plants or prune them a little bit. Even once your plants are in the ground, especially if they're in containers, you may need to prune them anyway. So we're going to go over a few tips and pointers using tomatoes that we have here at the farm as an example. Here we have some tomato plants that we're getting ready to transplant and put up onto training lines. These guys were all grown in CowPots, as you can see. They're a little bit hungry because they need to be transplanted. But if, again, you don't get around to transplanting them right away, a few tips. You want to take off any flower buds that appear on these young plants. It may not sound like it makes much sense because you want to have fruit, but when they're this small, flowers are really going to pull a lot of energy away from the growing of the plant. You want to have more stems and leaves right now and fewer flowers and fruit at this stage. Tomatoes are a special case. Most of the time a tomato plant will either be in a cage or it'll be on a stake. Here in the greenhouse we put them up on strings and then grow them up toward the ceiling, so we want a nice long stem, a nice dominant central leader. So when you're pruning tomatoes specifically, again, if it's still too young for fruit production, you want to remove the flowers, but what you really want to pay attention to are these side shoots or suckers. These guys are going to grow laterally, which you really don't want, especially in tight production like this. So you would just go through and sort of pull those off like that. Go through and just sort of pop them off. That's going to force the plant to grow vertically as opposed to growing horizontally, and it's also going to prevent the energy for the plant going into producing side branches, so there'll be a much stronger growth as well. And pruning is not just for tomatoes. Ornamental plants appreciate being pruned every once in a while as well. Pansies like to be deadheaded as well. Taking these spent ugly blooms off not only makes it look better, but it also encourages reblooming. This plant's a nemesia. Nemesia have many stalks of flowers. Once the stalks start to go down, instead of pruning them all off at once like this and having no flowers, you'd want to go through and pinch out about 1/3 of the stems. That way you have a constant supply of flowers. Geraniums are a classic example of a plant that needs pruned in order to prolong blooming. Geraniums will just stop flowering if you do not deadhead them. Plus the spent flowers look not so good. So what you want to do is you want to go all the way to the base of the flower stalk here and just bend it back until it snaps off. You don't want that to be any longer than about 1/4 inch, and then you throw the whole thing away. Now, while pruning is another level of maintenance that you may not want to do, whether you want to not spend the time doing it or whether you don't want to remove the flowers because there's still some color, it's really what's best for the plant. It encourages the plant to be nice and dense and bushy with lots of new flowers.